Our HOA president tried to chew through our barn lock like it insulted her bylaws. She called it a safety inspection. It looked less like a safety inspection and more like a raccoon auditioning for a crime show. We called it attempted raccoon cosplay. Caught on 4 hidden cameras and 1 stunned husband. But before we get to the part where she gets stuck in our barn window, we need to go back. This all started with a locked door, a nosy neighbor, me, and a whole lot of bad decisions. Ever had an HOA nightmare of your own? Drop a comment. It all started the day Verna Crutchley introduced herself, not with a handshake, but with a laminated rulebook and the smile of someone who's memorized it. "Welcome to Greater Harmony Heights," she said like she ran a cult and we were the last to RSVP. Verna wasn't born, she was notarized. She wore her power like a church hat and wielded her clipboard like it could part hedges. The first words she said to my wife Alina were, "Mom, your fence appears to be 1.8 inches outside acceptable standards." The barn was Alina's domain. She claimed it before the moving truck even parked. Locked it up, reinforced the hinges. And labeled it private storage. I didn't ask questions, mostly because the look she gave me said, "Don't." Verna, however, treated mystery like a personal insult. The more she couldn't see inside me, the more she decided it contained everything from flammable thoughts to unpermitted vibes. A week later, Verna was back, this time with a clipboard, a measuring tape, and the righteous energy of someone who files noise complaints against birds. "Just a routine community safety inspection," she chirped. "I'll need access to your barn for fire risk assessment." Alina didn't miss a beat. "That won't be necessary." Verna's eye twitched like it was trying to submit a formal complaint on its own. "But Alina," Verna said, voice tight as a garden hose in August, "I'm sure you understand. It's simply protocol." Alina raised one eyebrow. "You can put your protocol back in its holster." Verna scribbled furiously, probably adding, "barn bunker, probable threat." I watched from the porch with a lemonade and a rising blood pressure. That's when I knew we weren't neighbors. We were now contestants in the HOA Hunger Games. Some people collect stamps. Others collect grudges. Only the worst turn them into bylaws. Verna left that day looking calm. But calm for her is just reloading. You won't believe what she drops off next. Verna's handwriting looked like she forged ancient commandments with a Sharpie. Her envelopes, redder than my blood pressure. If pettiness were postage, she could have mailed herself straight to the Supreme Court. It started on a Tuesday. I came home to find a notice stapled to our door like a ransom note, only the hostage was common sense. Potential violation, unregistered odor. That's what it said. Not smoke, not gas, just odor. Verna, armed with nothing but suspicion and a scented vendetta, had declared war by mail. Every letter came certified, typed in 14-point Times New Roman. And smelled faintly of Wrath and Dollar Store perfume. The next day, another envelope. Seasonal decor displayed post-season. We had a single pine-scented wreath still hanging in the garage. The kind you forget about because life is short and some things just smell nice. But to Verna, it was Christmas in June, and that couldn't stand. Day after that, excessive shadow projection. Apparently, the barn was casting too much attitude after 3 p.m. I hadn't realized solar positioning was under OA jurisdiction, but here we were, Verna versus the equinox. Neighbors started acting strange. People who once waved now squinted. Mrs. Donnelly wouldn't make eye contact. Todd from down the street asked if we were storing chemicals, and did it in the voice people use when asking if your dog bites. Verna had been canvassing, whispering little nothings about unusual activity, early morning movements, and emergency response concerns. Basically, we were living inside a suburban game of Clue. Except the weapon was paperwork and the crime was minding our own business. Elena got quieter, not distant, just observant. She checked the locks more often, left earlier for work, and came home later with her jaw a little tighter. I knew better than to press. Meanwhile, Verna had upgraded her paper tactics, adding fake yellow highlight and urgent red arrows like she was annotating a bomb manual. "We need to resolve this matter immediately," one note read. Another simply said, "Your silence is concerning." I nearly mailed back, "So is your hobby. Petty power doesn't knock. It licks the stamp and shows up certified, armed with bullet points and zero chill." Rumors were now running laps around the block, and Verna, she was just getting warmed up. Next, barn of suspicion, where clipboards meet conspiracy. Verna called a neighborhood meeting because she heard humming at night. "Ma'am, that's electricity, not Satan." But she stood there like she'd just decoded Morse code from the devil's attic fan. By the time the HOA meeting rolled around, Verna had the floor plan, the PowerPoint, and the personality of a broken smoke detector that screams when there's no fire. She kicked things off with a new community protection proposal, which was code for Let's go poke Miles's barn again. She said, me. Uninspected auxiliary units present a threat to safety. She said it like she was testifying before Congress, not standing under a gazebo with folding chairs and lukewarm lemonade. Then came the big reveal. Me. Verna rolled out 3 poster-sized, grainy black and white barn photos that looked like they were printed from a fax machine having a seizure. One had a red circle drawn around a vent. Me. Another zoomed in on a padlock like it was holding national secrets. And the third, a blurry snapshot of Alina walking toward the barn at dawn. Me, which Verna labeled unusual pattern. If my wife's early commute is a federal offense, then coffee should come with Miranda rights. People started murmuring. Todd whispered something to Karen. Karen gasped like she'd just learned Mulch could commit crimes. Verna held her hand up like a choir director and said, "We're not here to gossip, me. We're here to ensure the safety of our neighborhood." That's rich. Coming from the woman who once told Mrs. Aldridge her wind chimes invited instability. I sat through it quietly, me watching her try to turn skepticism into a spreadsheet. Then she dropped the real grenade at a proposed rule requiring full inspections of all outbuildings, sheds, me, and, her favorite term, private use structures of unclear purpose. That last one was circled in bold. "We must act before something happens," she declared, me eyes locking on me like I was a one-man militia. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about noise, or light, or even code, me. It was about Verna needing to control something she didn't understand, and hating that she couldn't. I caught Alina's glance across the crowd. She didn't say a word, me, but her eyebrow did all the heavy lifting. The kind of look that says, "Let her keep digging." I nodded back. We weren't losing sleep over humming or zoning rules, me. We were just watching a woman slowly turn her own paranoia into a bonfire, and she hadn't even struck the match yet. The more desperate someone is to control you, the more they call it community improvement, and the louder they click their pens. When paranoia gets a podium, logic goes on vacation. But when gas lines and city regs enter the chat, me, that's where it really heats up. Verna showed up with 2 gas guys, a clipboard, and the confidence of a toddler in a superhero cape. She marched onto our driveway like she was leading an episode of CSI Suburbia. Only problem, the only thing leaking was her grip on reality. At 7:30 a.m., me, a white van pulled into our driveway with City Gas Services stenciled on the side and 2 very confused-looking technicians stepping out. Verna followed close behind. Me, hips swinging like justice was on back order, but she was here to deliver it early. "Good morning," she chirped, already scribbling. "We received a tip about potential methane buildup in your barn. For safety reasons, this is an emergency inspection. Lady, there's no gas line anywhere near the barn, just raw suspicion and a heavy sense of déjà vu. The techs were just trying to do their job, bless them." Me. One held a handheld sniffer up to the barn siding like it was gonna burp up a confession. Verna hovered like a hawk with a clipboard fetish. I asked, calmly, if there was an actual work order. Me. "This is a safety situation, sir," she replied, puffed up like a pufferfish on a legal diet. I was 2 seconds from calling the city when Alina walked out in full quiet, storm mode, bathrobe and all, and said, "Turn off your equipment. Step away from the structure." Everyone froze. Even the wind paused to listen. Elena's voice had the calm authority of someone who's memorized chapter and verse of consequences. "This barn is private property. There's no probable cause. And there is no methane." The technician blinked. "Mom, are you saying this isn't authorized?" Alina nodded. "Correct. And if you continue, I'll be forced to document this as an unlawful search." The guy practically sprinted back to the van. Verna, on the other hand, looked like someone had just canceled Christmas. Me. And when cornered, what does a Karen do? She dials. "Yes, hello, I'd like to report a possible hazmat threat, and the homeowners are becoming hostile. Enter Officer Timothy Phelps." Me, who showed up 10 minutes later with rookie nerves and a clipboard of his own. Verna ambushed him at the curb with a pile of printed emails, laminated fear, and a voice that could curdle oat milk. Me. "They've been acting suspicious for weeks," she hissed. "You should see the activity logs." Phelps nodded, overwhelmed, trying to process a situation that was unraveling faster than his authority. Me. Alina approached slowly, holding her ID in one hand and her spine in the other. "Officer," she said, "we are fully cooperating, and there's no cause for this visit." Me. "This is harassment disguised as concern." Phelps looked from her to Verna like he'd accidentally walked into a neighborhood divorce. "I just want to make sure everyone's safe," he muttered. Me. "You want safe," Elena replied. "Tell her to stop weaponizing utility companies." That's when I knew. We weren't dealing with curiosity. We were dealing with obsession in a pantsuit. Me. If someone needs a gas leak to justify their obsession, maybe the real leak is upstairs, and it's coming from between their ears. The gas guys bailed. The officer left unsure. But Verna. Me, she reloaded her clipboard. You won't believe her next legal invention. Verna's idea of justice was, if I don't understand it, it must be criminal. Her legal philosophy, me. Somewhere between Judge Judy and a malfunctioning Roomba, loud, circular, and always bumping into boundaries she didn't recognize. After the gas stunt failed harder than a karaoke duet in divorce court, Alina went quiet again, but not passive. She triple-checked the locks, adjusted her work schedule, and gave me one piece of advice: stay alert. Don't confront. Just watch. Which is exactly what I did. I installed a camera system so subtle it made James Bond look like a Ring doorbell. 4 angles on the barn, 2 facing the street, and 1 tucked inside a birdhouse Verna herself had lobbied for last spring. Irony flies with feathers, apparently. While testing the feed, I started digging digitally. Former residents, archived emails. Minutes Verna tried to delete but only managed to convert into confusing PDFs. The pattern hit me like a cold subpoena. Verna had driven out 3 families in 2 years. One because their lawn gnome was unpatriotic. Another because their tomato patch attracted vermin. And a third for daring to paint their door eggshell white instead of HOA approved vanilla beige. The woman didn't enforce rules, she weaponized preferences. And then it came. Slapped to our door like a parking ticket from God. Final compliance notice: failure to submit to inspection will result in immediate legal escalation and community action. She used bold, underlines and an actual stamp that read 48 HOURs. I didn't know you could trademark passive aggression, but Verna might have found a way. I showed it to Alina. She read it, blinked once, and said, double-check the backup drive, and clear your Saturday morning. That night, Alina barely spoke. She paced, reviewed footage, adjusted the lighting in the barn like she was prepping for a guest she hoped would misbehave. I wanted answers. She gave me only this: it's not time yet. But when it is, you'll understand everything. And for the first time since we moved in, I realized this wasn't just a territorial spat, it was a countdown. Verna wasn't enforcing anything, she was trespassing into something much bigger than her clipboard could handle. You don't have to outshout a tyrant. Just out-document her delusions, frame by frame, until she builds her own cage. The camera's rolling, the deadline's set, and Verna, she's about to chew her way into history. If you've never seen a woman chew on a deadbolt at 3 a.m., you haven't lived near HOA royalty. Verna wasn't trespassing, she was auditioning for a Discovery Channel documentary called Suburban Predators Clipboard Edition. And the wildlife cam, it was rolling. At 20:57 am, my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I rubbed my eyes thinking it was a raccoon or a curious cat. Nope, it was Verna, hood up, crowbar out, tiptoeing like a cartoon bandit who thought the only crime was getting caught without her favorite yoga pants. She crouched beside the barn lock, muttering to herself, then produced a hammer with the casual confidence of a woman who'd once argued that pumpkins after November were psychological litter. Alina joined me at the monitor, arms folded, eyes cold. She's doing it, she said like a surgeon announcing a chest incision. On screen, Verna pried, yanked, and finally smashed the lock with a grunt that sounded oddly personal, like the lock had mocked her OA bylaws. She slipped inside, flashlight first. What she found: a perfectly ordered workspace, police-grade gear, tactical charts, and front and center a badge with Chief Elena Prescott, engraved like a silver punchline. Verna froze. You could almost hear the realization slap her across the soul. She reached out, touched the badge like it was holy water, then backed away with a whimper so soft it made my fi feel sorry for her. But karma wasn't finished. On her way out, she caught her jacket on a hook. Spun, tripped over a chair and got wedged in the barn window like a scared groundhog trying to reverse life choices. That's when the biting began. No finesse, just primal desperation, metal on molar. Gnashing like she could file her way to freedom. Elena stood up. Call 911, she said. Then bring your phone. She's about to meet the chief she's been harassing. We walked out back. Cameras still recording, Verna mid-gnaw and looking like someone caught smuggling a raccoon through airport security. She froze as Elena's voice cut through the dark. Verna Holt, you are trespassing on police property. Please remove your mouth from the lock. Verna whimpered. I can explain. Elena didn't blink. Oh, I'm counting on it. Officer Morgan showed up 10 minutes later, wide-eyed and sleep-deprived. When he saw the badge, the footage, and the human hamster wheel stuck in our barn, his only words were, I think I need backup. Verna tried to twist, tried to justify, but every excuse sounded like a Yelp review for lunacy. And as Morgan gently peeled her out of the window frame and into handcuffs, the camera caught one final line from Verna, delivered with the wobble of a dethroned queen's. This isn't over. Obsession doesn't just knock. It pries, it pants, and when cornered, it gnaws. And when the truth finally arrives, It wears a badge, caught cuffed and cornered, but Verna's got one more courtroom cartwheel left in her. When Alina pulled out her badge, Verna looked like she'd swallowed her HOA charter. One minute she was chewing barn locks like a suburban beaver with delusions of justice. The next, she was face to face with the very law she tried to impersonate with a clipboard. The moment Officer Morgan heard Chief Alina Prescott, he stiffened like someone just rebooted his training manual. Verna, still breathless and half-window, smeared, tried to turn the moment into a PR save. This was all a misunderstanding. I thought she was smuggling contraband, or goats. Officer Morgan blinked twice. Verna, you called me. You filed the complaint. You escalated a gas leak that didn't exist. Somewhere an HOA board member dropped their mimosa. Elena didn't raise her voice. She raised the badge, then the evidence folder. Then the city code book, like a judge doing karaoke. You're being charged with criminal trespass, harassment, destruction of property. And obstruction of a police investigation. Verna's jaw dropped. Then she looked at the crowd of neighbors gathering, phones up, mouths open, vindication in their flip-flops. You can't do this in front of everyone, she hissed. Elena raised one brow. I didn't invite an audience, you did. Officer Morgan handcuffed Verna gently, like she was made of glass and entitlement. Behind him, neighbors started clapping, some slow, some sarcastic. One guy even whistled, "Bad boys," under his breath. Verna's mascara ran faster than her excuses. I was protecting the neighborhood. I had a responsibility. A neighbor yelled, "You made me remove my wind chimes, Verna." Another added, "She cited me for having pink tulips." By the time the patrol car pulled up, the HOA board looked like they were watching their 400-watt crash in real time. At the curb, Officer Morgan turned to Alina. I had no idea, he said. She made it seem like you were hiding something dangerous. Elena nodded. I was. My patience. Then she gave him a quick debrief, handed over the footage, and walked back to the crowd. To those who supported us quietly, thank you. To those who doubted us, watch the replay. The HOA board tried to shuffle away, but a grandma with a garden hose blocked them like a seasoned linebacker. You're staying, she said. We've got questions. Verna sat in the back seat of the cruiser, glassy-eyed and deflated like a party balloon that screamed about fences too long. Morgan shut the door and looked to Alina. Anything else, Chief? Elena smiled just slightly. Yes, make sure she gets a copy of the footage. I hear she likes documentation. Don't mistake silence for weakness. Sometimes silence wears a badge, builds a case, and waits patiently for you to indict yourself with teeth marks. The handcuffs clicked. The HOA crumbled. But Verna's not done flailing yet. Verna's new job. Weeding the same lawns she once ruled like a tin pot dictator with Wi-Fi and a clipboard. Karma didn't knock. It handed her an orange vest and a trash picker. And just like that, the HOA queen became the mulch monarch of Riverside Grove. Verna didn't go down without a tantrum. 2 days after her arrest, she lawyered up and sued Elena for entrapment, impersonation, and psychological sabotage. The court date came quicker than a discount a fine. Verna entered the courtroom like she was auditioning for a reality show called Suburban Injustice: The Reckoning. Her opening line, Your Honor. This was all a misguided attempt at neighborhood stewardship. The judge replied, roll the tape. The footage played. Verna chewing on a lock. Verna whispering conspiracies to herself. Verna wedged in a barn window like a sentient baked potato. The courtroom cracked. Even the stenographer had to pause to wipe tears. Her lawyer tried one last Hail Mary. This footage was taken without her consent. The judge raised an eyebrow. She was breaking into a police chief's barn. She's lucky the footage doesn't have a soundtrack. Case dismissed. Public opinion. Sealed and delivered with a laugh track. Back in the neighborhood, things shifted fast. The HOA board resigned with a statement that read like a breakup note written in legalese. Alina didn't celebrate, she transformed. Her barn, once Verna's obsession, was reborn as the Riverside Grove Safety Center. CPR classes, community watch, even a workshop titled, How to Handle a Karen Without Getting Sued. The kids painted murals, the elders donated tools, and just like that, the place Verna tried to violate became the one place nobody feared. And Verna, probation, community service, assigned, poetically, to the same neighborhood she tried to conquer like a spreadsheet Caesar. Her first day back, she wore oversized sunglasses and a frown deep enough to plant tulips in. This is retaliation, she muttered to herself, yanking weeds like they insulted her ancestry. Elena walked by with a smile. Welcome back, Verna. Let us know if you need help reading the rules this time. A neighbor clapped. Another offered sunscreen. It was a full circle roast in broad daylight. By the time her service was done, Verna no longer barked about bylaws. She mumbled them, like someone trying to remember a breakup text. Her clipboard was gone, her kingdom reduced to a trash bag and a pair of off-brand gloves, and Riverside Grove. Me free smiling, repainting fences in peace. As for me and Elena, we watched it all from the porch swing, 1 badge, 2 lawn chairs, and 0 tolerance left for nonsense. And as for me, I still teach shop class, me, still fix things with my hands. But now I also fix a few things with my voice. When folks ask what finally ended Verna's reign of red envelopes and rage-printed memos, me, I don't talk about lawsuits or surveillance. I say, we remembered who we were. And we stopped being afraid of someone who mistook authority for truth. Elena, she's still the same woman, private, composed, 5 steps ahead, but now the neighborhood knows the badge isn't what made her powerful. It was the patience, the quiet strength, the ability to wait while someone else built their own downfall out of paranoia and petty threats. That barn out back, it's more than wood and reinforced locks now. It's a monument to the idea that you don't have to yell to be right. Sometimes you just need to document the madness, wait for midnight, and let a raccoon-shaped tyrant chew through her own credibility. This story wasn't just about a nosy OA president named Verna or a locked barn. It was about boundaries. It was about how the loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest, me, and how control without compassion always collapses under its own weight. We learned that silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. That justice doesn't always show up in sirens. Sometimes it arrives in a vest, me, with a calm voice and a file full of receipts. And most importantly, we saw what happens when a community chooses truth over intimidation and laughs at fear instead of bowing to it. If you've ever faced down a clipboard tyrant or dealt with a petty power tripper, drop your story in the comments. Let's make this the HOA support group we all deserve. If this story gave you a laugh, it gave you chills, or gave you hope, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell, because around here, poetic justice is always just 1 click away. More outrageous tales are coming soon, me. You won't want to miss what happens when quiet people stop playing nice. Got your own HOA horror story, me? Drop it in the comments. Let's laugh at the madness together, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow we have another incredible story.